With so much software available in the short-term rental industry these days, it's increasingly difficult to keep up to date with what's on the market and to determine whether it's a maybe or a must-have for you and your business. So meet one provider each week in a short interview, learning what they do and what they offer. So if you have around 15 minutes to spare, it could prove to be a very good investment to stick around. So let's see who and what is out there, one by one, with me, Deborah Larby, also known as the Guest Inspector. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Techsplained with the Guest Inspector. When I first started this series, I wanted to interview software providers so we could all know what's available out there. But then I realized there's so much more to discuss and share with the industry, including services and issues. In an earlier episode, the issue of human trafficking was discussed and how we all need to be aware of this to ensure we, as accommodation providers, are not assisting traffickers. At the recent Short Stay Summit, I was fortunate to be at a roundtable discussion on today's subject, and the journey to industry awareness has definitely started. That topic is sustainability. And before you throw your hands in the air and say too hard and tune out, my guest today wants to bring awareness to this important topic, and there are many of us now who will make sure the journey continues. The topic is huge, but awareness, education, and small steps are the way forward. In the near future, we will endeavour to make the term sustainability a more positive and pleasant topic to discuss. So without further ado, I'm about to welcome Bob Garner to the show. Hello, Bob.
Hey, Deborah. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to launch straight into the first question. And it's not the usual Techsplained questions. We're dealing with an issue here. So I'm going to ask you about you. I know a lot of people know who you are, but in a few sentences, can you please give us your background?
Yeah. So my name is Bob Garner, and along with my partner, we run Casal di Fichi, sustainable holiday apartments in Italy. And we've been doing that for 15 years. We love it. We live on site. We see our guests all the time. We do everything about the hosting. And of course, it's all around sustainability. And we've been passionate about it for a long time. It works for us. It's great for our business and it's great for the environment. And our guests love it. So it's a win-win-win for us.
When you first started the business, did you have sustainability in mind when you started renovating and everything? Did you have it ready from the beginning?
Yeah, we bought an old farmhouse, a derelict farmhouse that needed completely gutting and starting again. So we built some sustainability initiatives from the get-go, from day one, like some solar panels and digging a well and getting rid of single-use plastic and things like that. But to be honest, we were on a journey too. We didn't know much. We knew that we wanted to do stuff. We knew that we needed to do stuff, and so we just started implementing initiatives, seeing how they landed with the guests, seeing how they worked, what the responses were, whether people came back on repeat business, how we got some press off the back of it. And I always say all the time to people, environmental sustainability for a property manager is a little bit like a nice drug. You get started, you take some nice initiatives, you get some good feedback, you get some repeat business, you get some referrals, you win an award, you get some press, somebody writes a wonderful review, and it's like a virtuous circle. And each time you get a little buzz, a little frisson of, this is working, it's good for my business and it's good for the planner. So you implement something new and you start a whole new cycle of activity. And so it's gone on for us for the last 15 years. And obviously we've implemented a lot of things now and they work really well for us. And I'm on a mission to tell other people about it and get them started.
So it was those first few steps that gave you a little bit of that taste and the positivity came back and you just kept on from there. It's the first few steps that count. It's like going to the gym for the first time. The first step is always like, but once you get the feel of it, it's like, yeah. So so maybe sustainability is the same thing.
Yeah. Somebody said it's a bit like eating potato chips or crisps in the UK. You just can't stop. You just can't stop once you get started.
I know about that. So you've been a growing voice in the industry about sustainability. I want to wind back the clock a bit and learn how you first heard about it, who or what inspired you, and then what your journey was like. So wind back pre-farmhouse, obviously.
Yeah. Well, we were living in London. We both had corporate jobs, and sustainability was on the agenda then, but it wasn't in the news anywhere near as much as it has been. But I've always been interested in environment. I've been interested in animal welfare. I've been interested in our impact on the planet. So I was always conscious of it. And really, I just started reading and learning and educating myself. And then obviously there were people who you look up to, like, you know, David Attenborough, who's an amazing advocate for the environment and for protecting our planet. And so I've just learned and read and was inspired by people like that to get involved. And of course, it can be a complicated subject, but as you said in the introduction, it's about breaking it down into some smaller, simple steps. You can't eat the elephant in one go. You've got to come back and do a bite at a time. And once you start to think about things in a logical way, you can do it. It doesn't need to cost you any money, and it's wonderful for the business. I really, really need people to understand that they can have a hugely successful business and be green.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is all about awareness and education. Yeah. So you are the founder of Green VR Events, and you're aiming at the top by targeting the producers of conferences. Can you explain what you're doing with these event organizers and why you're starting with events and not property managers?
Yeah. So since we've been running this business for the last sort of 5 or 6 years, I've been much more vocal in our industry on various websites and podcasts and writing articles to try and educate my fellow property managers and hosts about being sustainable, because I know it's worked for me and I want other people to do it. I'm giving this information away. I'm helping people. I'm having one-to-one conversations every day with people, but it's a very time-consuming process to try and educate one property manager at a time. I'm just one person. There are hundreds of thousands of people out there who need to pick up this message. So it occurred to me that one of the ways to reach a much bigger audience is through our wonderful events and conferences. We really need those events. They're amazing, and people go there to learn, to connect, to be inspired. And if we can encourage those events to be in themselves sustainable and talk about sustainability, have sustainability on the agenda, have a speaker talking about sustainability, as we did last week at the Short Stay Summit in London, and as we'll do this week at Scale Rentals in Barcelona, we reach a much bigger audience then, and we start to tackle hundreds of people at a time and not just one-on-one. So we know there's a climate emergency, and tourism accounts for 8% of global greenhouse gases. That's a huge, huge number. And of course, the short-term rental sector is a proportion of that 8%. So I think that we all have a responsibility to play our part. And it's through the events that we can reach a much, much bigger audience. So I want events to be greener in themselves, but I really want to use them as a platform to reach so many other people. And I think that's one of the best ways that we can do it. Hence, that's why I started Green VR Events.
Yeah, great. We were talking at the roundtable discussion about the fact that if we could all get on board and if we could all make a positive impact on the environment, be more positive about sustainability. We were talking about the bad media that holiday rentals gets, you know, the wild parties and the this and the that. And this will be a tick for the industry if we can say that we are being very proactive in terms of being sustainable. So this is why I think the whole industry needs to start shifting in that direction, because we need some good positive media.
And of course, you know, you're right, Deborah. But of course, what's happened is that I'm a volunteer for Tourism Declares a Climate Emergency. So I spend a lot of time talking to people in our industry about why it's important that they take action, both for the planet and for their own business. But I think tourism's response to the crisis has been very fractured. It's been very piecemeal. There are some wonderful stars in our industry who are doing some amazing things, but the vast majority of people working in our industry, of the businesses, no criticism intended, just haven't got their head around what they can do. And we need to get that information to them so that they can start to take action. And some small steps are a great way of taking action, tapping into a market, because people are looking for sustainable places to stay. Find that market, tap into it, and you've got a whole new tranche of business that you can open up to. If you're not sustainable, you're not going to attract those sustainability-minded guests. So it's in your interests, property manager and host, to start to take some proper, meaningful steps. And I don't mean greenwashing here, some proper steps, brand yourself accordingly, and get that business in. And it's a win-win.
Well, this is what I said in the introduction about, throw your hands in the air too hard. When you're trying to assess the whole elephant and you just don't know anything about it, where do I start? I don't know. And I don't have time to be investigating this sort of stuff. So this is why I think, we just break it down step by step, one thing at a time. So as you touched on, the niche market of guests looking for sustainable properties. So 80 to 90% of guests apparently are wanting to stay at sustainable properties. For those people who threw their hands up too hard, tell us maybe 3 things that a manager or owner can do right now to start their journey towards having a sustainable property.
Yeah. So I always say, start with the easy, low-hanging fruit that won't cost you any money, because that gets you started. It gets you onto a roll. So number 1, whether you're a property manager or a host, is start using a green energy tariff. So talk to your energy provider or through your property manager or your host. Talk and find out what your energy tariff is. Are you on a green energy tariff? Obviously, it's the same energy, it's the same electricity coming down the wires, but when you're on a green energy tariff through your provider, your money is going to support the investment in renewables, and that's what we need to do. It won't cost you any more money. It's a quick phone call or a message on a website. Get yourself converted. If by any chance, depending on where you are in the world, your provider doesn't have a green energy tariff, switch providers. It's not complicated. It won't cost you any more money. And that's a quick win, because it's the energy that you consume, which is one of the biggest parts of your carbon footprint. So if you can tackle that, it's a big quick win.
Okay. And I think that's great. Already here we're starting the education, because I didn't know that green energy is the same price. Like organic food, I always expected green energy to be a bit more expensive. So already this first thingy is one phone call, doesn't cost you anything more, and already you're taking a step in the right direction. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Yeah. And of course, it's also important to, when you do these things, to talk about them, to badge yourself as being sustainable. Talk about it, create a page on your website, start to say that you've done X, Y, and Z, and next year you plan to do A, B, and C. Be honest, be open, and people will appreciate it that you're on that path. You don't have to do lots of things all at the same time.
Yeah. Well, even with these 3 things that you're going to say, you can almost have one website of the 3 things and a tick a box, and the next one is like blurred. Okay, we're going to go through these 3 things, and already there's 3 things that the guest sees that you're heading towards to make it greener. So that's great. Yeah.
With all of these things, everyone's on the journey. You do what you can early on, and then you do some more things later. I mean, the second thing I would say is think about removing single-use plastic from your property, from your business. Because we all understand about the plastic pollution. We know that most of it isn't getting recycled. Half of it is ending up in the ocean. It breaks down into microplastics. We're finding it in people's food now. It's in fish. It's even in the water. And so it's something that you can tackle. And most people will understand that it's an important thing to tackle. So look at your proposition. See where you're using plastic in your business. So give you one example, are you still using those little shampoo bottles in the bathrooms? Well, get rid of them, put a dispenser on the wall that you can just fill, and then you can continue to use that product, but it's just on a refill. And again, will probably save you money, because you won't be buying all these little bottles all the time. And you're sending a signal to your guest, to your client, you care about the environment, and you're making some steps to make a difference. So
on that note, if there's any property managers that don't want to be drilling anything into the wall, what I used to do is I used to have a 1 liter pump bottle of shower gel in the bathroom, and I would just top up the 1 liter, because travelers are not going to walk off with a 1 liter bottle of shower gel. It's not something that they're going to put in their suitcase. So it was always there. So there's no drilling into the wall. So there's another way around it. You just have the 1 liter bottle and just keep filling it. So it's always pretty full. No one's going to take it.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then you wanted the three things. So the third thing, and there are so many, and I've written a whole 10-stage roadmap for property managers and hosts, which goes into the 10 things they can do, how to do it, when to do it, what it will cost. So there's a whole document that perhaps we can refer to in the show notes. Yeah, that would be great. But I would say also look at something like your lighting. So you know that the latest lighting technology is LED lights. LED lights use a tiny, tiny fraction of the electricity of the old style lights. They last for a long lot longer. They're not giving out any heat. So that's why they don't consume much power and they still have the same brightness. So switching out your old light bulbs to LED will save you money. You won't have the maintenance to keep changing them because they last for years and years and years. Again, you're consuming less energy, so therefore you're reducing your carbon footprint. So really quick and easy to do, and start to talk about it because that's really important.
Yeah, I know in Australia that there is a government subsidy if you want to switch over your lights. So it's actually not expensive. I've just been through the whole process back in Sydney. And the cost benefit, you know, it's like, okay, you pay for the lights, but like you said, the electricity bill is going to be way lower and you won't be swapping light bulbs so often. So yeah, great thing. Yeah. One thing that, I mean, I never thought about being green and whatever. I did the right thing. I recycled my rubbish. I had my big 1 liter bottles of shower gel, but even just something like having a clothes area, the dryer, the racks, you know, instead of people putting it in the dryer, you know, encourage them to hang it on the racks by the window, in the sunshine, outside, even if you've got a house or with the outdoor area. So, you know, clothes drying, get it out into the sun and the wind rather than sticking it in the machine. Simple as having a wire rack.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for our facilities here, you know, there is a dryer, but there's a big sign out saying do not use unless the weather is really, really bad. And, you know, we guide people on how they can do it and what they can do. And another thing, talking about clothes and guests when they're staying, we always tell people there are washing facilities here. You can use them for free. The detergents are not poisonous, they are ethical, they're transported in a good way, they're rehydrated. And I could talk a whole nother episode about that. But encourage them to travel lighter, because they travel lighter, then they have a much lighter carbon footprint from their car journey or from their flight, and they can just wash the clothes that they have here. If they're here for 2 weeks, after the first week, they can wash their clothes and they don't need to carry so much. So they save on checked luggage. We save on carbon that's being emitted from transporting too many baggages. And then when they come here, they use our outside dryer in the beautiful Italian sunshine, and everything's hunky-dory.
Well, I think that's another whole episode of the psychology about people packing too much. That's another whole episode. I'll have to get Marie what's her name on here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For those, sorry, no, I'm not going to close yet. Actually, I did. I just wanted to know. Sorry, we did the 3 things. Is there anything you'd like to close with, Bob? I think, you know, it's all about taking these first small steps, and the journey is starting now. Is there anything you'd like to sort of like wrap up with?
I guess I would say to people, as I'll be speaking about this at the Scale Rentals conference this week in Barcelona, is we need everybody to get engaged. It's no good if there's a handful of people doing everything perfectly and 95% of people doing nothing. It's much better if we can get 100% of people imperfectly, but trying their best. And that has a much bigger impact. And I would never criticize anybody for starting their journey. Wherever they are, take some steps and you will see the benefits. You'll see the benefits in terms of profit for your business. You'll see the benefits in terms of appreciation from your guests, who they can see that you're making a difference and trying to make a difference. And that will come back in spades to you in terms of increased business. So really, I think it's a win-win. You haven't got anything to lose by taking some steps. You're doing the right thing for the planet, and you will also be a more successful business.
Well, I think if everyone implemented 1, 2, or 3 of the steps that you suggested, then we're already all moving in the right direction. And it'll just be slowly, they'll get a little taste of those chippies and they'll keep wanting more. Well, the way I look at it is this, cleaning up the planet and bringing back the clean equilibrium won't happen overnight, and nor is it the responsibility of a few. So, you know, if we all did one or two things, then it's a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm also interested in where this is going in the industry, and Bob and I just had a little chat beforehand. So there will be an ongoing discussion about sustainability in the industry. So stay tuned. There'll be some more episodes coming your way for awareness and education, and some more steps. So thank you very much for your time, Bob. This has been very interesting. Oh, by the way, I just want to touch on, I like that sustainability page. I think on people's websites, you know, to say what they are doing, like we also talk about a trust page and a sustainability page. I think that really shows a lot of credibility for the property management company or owner or whatever. So yeah, I think that sustainability page is a nice one.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to go to my page, we've got several sustainability pages. We can perhaps put a link in the show notes, and they can see what we have done and how we talk about it to our guests. And you can pick some of those things off that list if you want, and tackle it as a property manager or a guest. Yeah. And of course, anybody who wants to contact me, easily to catch me through LinkedIn, and I'll happily help people for free.
Yeah. Well, I'll put all the links in the description below, and any links to the documents that you said before, to the 10-step program. And and if you have any questions for Bob, I can put a link in the thing as well as your LinkedIn link. So thank you very, very much for your time, Bob. This has been very interesting, and the discussion ain't over.
Totally great. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
We'll be speaking more soon. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, ciao.
Bye.